Hey folks, if you're new here, my name's David. I'm a full-time mandolin player here in the States, and I love talking about practice and practice productivity. And in this video, I want to give you a rundown of my top 10 favorite smartphone apps that have helped make my practice a lot more productive. And while your phone can often be a huge distraction when you're practicing, there are some really helpful tools here that can add some value to your practice time. And no paid sponsors here. These are just apps that I like to use a lot. So let's just start running down this list, and we'll get a couple obvious ones out of the way here first. First up, I use my clock app here as a way of structuring my practice time. You guys may have heard me talk about this before, but I usually try to break up my practice into about 10 or 15-minute chunks. So if I sit down to practice for an hour, I'll usually break that up into 4 15-minute chunks and practice 4 different things, one for each segment. Then I'll just set that timer for 15 minutes and try to lose myself in the activity. I like this because you don't have to worry about practicing something for too long or for too little. It's just a great kind of limiter to set for yourself. That way you can focus on what you're doing without worrying about all that extra stuff. So a timer app, this is probably the app that I use the most out of this entire list. It's invaluable. I just use the one built in here on the iPhone, but feel free to use whatever timer app you want to. The next obvious app that we'll talk about here is the Voice Memos app that comes built in on the iPhone, but it doesn't have to be this particular one. It can be any recording app out there. It's just so helpful to have a quick and dirty way of recording things throughout your practice session. So I use this for a few things in particular, especially if I'm composing and I come up with a motif or an idea that I like, I'll make a quick recording of that for reference. If I'm working on a tune or a song to play with the band, I can record a really rough backing track for myself to try out ideas on. Also, I use this to come up with solo ideas. So if I'm composing a solo or trying to come up with new ideas to play on stage, then I'll record those and try to memorize them and come back to them day after day. So easy. This usually comes built in with your phone. Take advantage of it. All right, now for the rest of the video, we'll be talking about paid applications. And if you're just starting to assemble your own music app arsenal, this is the first one that I'd recommend buying. I think it's always helpful to have a tuner app on board because there's always going to be situations when your battery dies on your tuner or you misplace the physical tuner and you're going to need a backup. And I like to use this Cleartune app made by BitCount Limited, and you may have seen this before. It's a pretty popular one that a lot of musicians use. They say on their website that this is the most critically acclaimed instrument tuner available on the mobile market. And as far as I can tell, it does seem to be a pretty accurate tuner. It uses the microphone here built in on your iPhone to register the note, and it'll give you some really detailed feedback on whether you're sharp or flat. You just follow this dial as you play and tune. And this one's not too expensive. It usually comes in around $199 US in most app stores, so check it out if you want to. I've got links to all these paid apps in the description below too. So next we'll be looking at some metronome applications, which is such a good thing to have. I love having a metronome on my phone because it means I have no excuse not to play with my metronome. And I actually use a couple different metronome apps for a couple of different reasons. And first up, I've been using this Time Guru app for quite a while now. It's designed by this guy named Avi Bortnick. And if you're into polyrhythmic music, like lots of different time signatures or different rhythms, then this is a great app because it actually allows you to build certain recurring rhythmic patterns that a lot of other metronome apps don't. Another cool feature is this tap button here, which allows you to tap out a rhythm with your finger. And basically it just finds that tempo that you're feeling. But the thing that I definitely use the most in this app is this random mute feature here in the middle of the screen. And what this does, it allows you to basically gradually mute a percentage of the clicks that you're hearing. So here I've got it random mute 50%. It can be super infuriating to practice like this, but it's great because it helps train your own personal sense of metronomic time where you're having to fill in those gaps on your own. And this app is definitely a bargain at $199, so be sure to check it out if you're interested. All right, for app number 5 on the list, I have another metronome app that I use for some different things, and this one's called Tempo. And while there's not a random mute option like on Time Guru, there are some great features here that I really like. And one of the most useful features here is that you can set some automation. So for instance, if you want to slowly increase the tempo of your song, you can say, okay, how about I increase 6 BPM every 2 bars here, and then I press go. And basically what will happen is it'll count out the measures here with the dots, and then every 2 measures is going to go up 6 BPM. So it's just slowly and slowly cranking up here. Sometimes I'll use this feature for working on speed for fiddle tunes. So if I know the fiddle tune is 32 bars, I'll set it to increase 5 BPM every 32 bars. So I have to keep playing through the tune again and again, and it slowly ratchets up that tempo to push my limits. And one more thing here is that you can actually create set lists here on the app for songs that you're working on every day, so you can actually track your tempo progress. So here I've got 3 tunes that I've been working on for video lessons over on Patreon and here on YouTube. So Let's say I'm working on Big Toyota at 120 beats per minute here. Whenever I pull this tune up, I'll have all my particular settings saved. If I'm working on any automations or anything like that, it'll just automatically pop up, which is super helpful. And there's a light version of this app that has some limited features that's actually free, but if you want all the stuff I was just talking about here, the full version is $2.99 on most app stores. All right, on to app number 6, and this one's kind of related to those metronome apps. This one's called the Live BPM Beat Detector. And as the name suggests, this app just tells you the speed of a song as the microphone on the iPhone picks it up. It just analyzes the ratio of the beats and it gives you a BPM reading. So super helpful if you're at a live show, you want to tell like what tempo is Michael Cleveland burning this super fast fiddle tune at. You whip out this app and it'll automatically tell you. But even more helpful, it actually gives you a graph that tracks your speed fluctuation throughout the entire song. We've used this a lot for rehearsals with my band Mile 12. If we're working on a super fast song, we'll all kind of huddle around the phone and play, at 160, 170 beats per minute. And we can automatically tell when we're all collectively speeding up or slowing down, and we can try to adjust to it accordingly. I don't use this app quite as much, and it does run $3.99 on most app stores, so it's a little bit on the periphery, but super helpful if you find yourself in these situations pretty often. All right, this next app has probably been the most life-changing app out of all of these, and it's probably the most controversial item on this list as well. Number 7 is the Spotify app. And I know a lot of artists hate Spotify and other streaming services in particular, but for me, personally, as an artist, I love the idea of being able to put my music out there for little to no cost of my own and to have my music available to anyone who wants to listen to it at the click of a button. That's just amazing. And as an ongoing music student, I find this is an invaluable resource because if I want to go learn something by ear, all I have to do is type in the name of the artist or the name of the song and voila, I've got it right there. And this app has really helped me expand my horizons through all the suggested playlists, all the suggested artists. I love going through like the recommended for today, the album picks, seeing what I've listened to before and going back and revisiting things. It's all super, super helpful. And I've also got this Patreon playlist, which is an ongoing list of all the things that we've been working on over on Patreon. I just updated this recently, so check it out if you're interested. Obviously, Spotify is free, but it's not really worth it unless you're paying the $9.99 a month for the premium to get rid of the ads. But in my opinion, it's worth it. That money is an investment. It goes to the artists as well, and it's paying into the future streaming model where artists are actually getting booked depending on how many followers they have on Spotify and how many listens that they have. So do us all a favor, go pay for Spotify, go follow us as artists, go listen to our music. It actually all pays off in the end. All right, in tandem with Spotify, the next app that really changed my life was the amazing Slowdowner by Ronnie Music. So you guys probably know this one. It's a program that's been available on computer for a long time, kind of a legendary app amongst musicians because it allows you to take a recording and slow it down without altering the pitch, so it makes it a lot easier to learn things by ear. So when I was first starting to do transcriptions on my own and starting to play by ear a bit more, someone told me that I should just play the recordings at full speed, that I should be able to do that without having to slow it down, that using a program like this was kind of cheating. And I think that is a total load of rubbish because if you can find anything like this to cut down on the starting friction to a transcription project, all the more power to you. Because if you're not transcribing, you won't be getting better at transcribing. And I think transcribing is one of the best things that you can do with your time as a musician. All that to say, it's a great app and there's tons of features here. Obviously, you can change the speed to whatever percentage that you want to, slow things down, speed things up. You can change the key of the song overall. Like if you're trying to learn the same song in a different key, that's a great resource. You can even change the EQ of the recording itself if you want to hear more of the high end or the low end, or change it from panning right to left. All that's just built into the app. And the most helpful thing is that you can actually loop small sections of the recording. So if you just want to hear a 1 second phrase again and again and again to pick it out note by ear, then you can do that here. But that's not even the best thing about this app, because if you have it on your smartphone and you have a subscription to Spotify or to Apple Music, you can actually stream those songs from Spotify or Apple onto the amazing Slowdowner and be able to do all those alterations without actually owning the MP3 of the song. So it's incredible. I can just come over to the Spotify portion of the amazing Slowdowner app and see all of those playlists that I was talking about earlier. So if I want to check out something in the Patreon transcriptions list, I can do that. And then there I go. I got all those features right there. The only downside to this app is the price point. This one comes in at $14.99, which is a lot for an app. I think this is probably the most expensive app that I have on my phone, but it is one of the most well-used apps as well. By comparison, you can buy the same program, the Amazing Slowdowner, for a desktop or laptop, and it runs about $50. And you can't even pair it with Spotify or Apple Music, to my knowledge, when it's on your computer. So at just $15, this is a steal. All right, on to app number 9, which is the Irealpro app by Technimo LLC. And what this is, it's basically an automated play-along app that you can use specifically for jazz music, but you can download thousands and thousands of chord progressions to songs in pretty much any genre out there. And the automated instruments for at least the jazz stuff sounds pretty good. You know, like sounds like a real piano, sounds like a real bass and real drums. I mean, it doesn't sound like real people, but it's believable, and it's pretty nice to play along to if you're getting more into swing and jazz stuff. And if you want to, you can even download bluegrass song chord progressions, and there's kind of this built-in MIDI bluegrass thing, but the sound is not quite so good. The banjo kind of sounds like something from Animal Crossing or something like that. But beyond that, there are tons of great features here. Like you can change the tempo really easily. You can automate the tempo to increase every time that you're playing through the tune. You can change how many times you're playing through the tune, change the key of the song overall. You can even make adjustments to the chord charts here in the app, or write out a new chord progression for a song that you're working on. So tons of valuable stuff. And in particular, I find this app is really useful for practicing improvising. You know, it kind of gives you the semblance of being in a real band setting, and it's super helpful if you're getting more into the swing and jazz traditions, and you know, there's more complex chords, key changes. You just get all that context of the chord progression and the structure of the song, as well as a tempo to follow along with. So in some ways it's even better to play along with something like this than a metronome. But this app does cost a pretty penny as well. This one runs at $13.99 on most app stores. I think I bought it for less, but I guess there's a big demand for this now. But check it out if you're interested. Which brings us to our last app number 10, which is Strum Machine. And this is basically a bluegrass version of Irealpro. What's great about this is that there's hundreds and hundreds of bluegrass and old-time tunes and song chord progressions already built into the app. And there's realistic, believable instrument recordings of guitar, mandolin, and bass that you can use to play along with to get a feel for a real bluegrass setting. So I can come over to something here like Red Prairie Dawn, which is a great tune. We looked at that one over on Patreon as well. And here I've got it in the key of A. I'll just hit play, and I've got some really great, believable guitar, mandolin, and bass sounds coming out. Not bad. So very similar to Irealpro here, you can change the tempo of the recording really easily. You can automate it to speed up every time you play through the tune. You can change the key if you want to. You can even do some cool stuff with the instruments, you know, change the volume of each of these, or even adjust the timing of these different instruments in relationship to the beat. So if you want to have like the guitar play behind the beat a little bit, you can, or the mandolin ahead of the beat, you can do that. But this app is a little bit more on the pricey side of things. And the one downfall, in my opinion, is that it's on a subscription basis, which I shouldn't even be saying because I run this subscription basis Patreon platform as well that a lot of folks are a part of. The thing that's different about this is that you pay $4.99 a month to get access to all these songs, but as soon as you stop paying, you don't get access to any of them. I'd be much more willing to pay $50 outright and be able to get unlimited access to all these songs, but again, I'm not one to be talking here. Well, there you go. I hope you found a couple of practice productivity app gems throughout this list. And if there are other apps that you're using that you find really helpful too, be sure to let me know in the comments below. As always, you can support the channel by giving a like or a subscribe here on YouTube, or join us over on that Patreon page that I mentioned. You can find more info at the link in the cards above, but there's tons of mandolin learning resources over there, like transcriptions and other live play-along tracks. And once you download those, they're yours for keeps. But that's it for this video. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you soon.